Okay, it's 11 o'clock. So welcome to the webinar. Welcome to, it's quite an exciting webinar for me because it's a new avenue, it's a new website, and I'll be explaining exactly what the thinking is behind this website. But I'm very excited about launching it. I'm very excited about the people who have already shown interest in it and want to be a part of what we're doing. So just a little outline of what I'll be going over today. So just to explain the structure of the webinar, first of all, I keep going on about the 4 Cs. I assume that everyone has come across the 4 Cs. They've almost become a cliche, although I think with cliches, there's a great deal of truth behind them. But I will tell you how I interpret the 4 Cs, and hopefully that'll give more context to the website and what we're trying to do. I'm gonna link the 4 Cs to what we already do, and when I say we, I mean all of us here. I mean people doing theory of knowledge. I mean people who don't do theory of knowledge, you know, learning in general, and theoryofknowledge.net, the site that probably a lot of you use, but maybe some of you don't use. So what we already do, how does it link to the 4 Cs? Then I'll explain how I'm going to break this down into 2 things in terms of the 4 Cs. First of all, how will the new site Critivicate support schools who want to introduce and develop the 4 Cs? And then crucially, and this is what I think is really missing, how will Critivicate support schools that want to showcase students' skills in the 4 Cs? Because those 2 things I think are very, very different. I want to talk briefly about our pilot program, because we're looking for schools to help us get everything started. You know, the site's going to be active. You're going to be able to use the site, free members, also paying members. But we'd like some schools to give us feedback, because although we know it's a good concept, because it's based on theoryofknowledge.net, which seems to work quite well, it is new for us because it is designed for non-IB diploma schools. So if you're a non-IB diploma school, you're in the right place. If you're an IB diploma school that also runs other programs such as A-level, AP, etc., then you're also in the right school. But if you're only doing IB diploma, theoryofknowledge.net will continue to be your best bet. So I'll explain a little bit more about that in the 6th part of this. 7, very quickly, how do you become a member of Critivicate? Actually, that's very, very easy to go over, but I'll very quickly explain how that will work. And then finally, if you're not familiar with who I am, with what theoryofknowledge.net is, then just a quick sort of overview of what we do and where you can find out more about us. Okay, I am Michael Dunn. I'm the host of this webinar. I'm the creator of theoryofknowledge.net. If you're not familiar with that, it's a site that supports the Theory of Knowledge course, which is part of the IB diploma. It's a fantastic course, something that I've become dangerously obsessed by. I absolutely love teaching TOK. I was a history teacher. I've taught film as well. I've taught geography. I've taught politics. I've taught quite a lot of things related to humanities. Excuse me. And then when I began teaching theory of knowledge, it sort of took over my life, and I launched the website, and it's become quite a success online. And I love teaching it, and the students that I deal with love it. And I think that it inculcates some really, really important skills, develops their critical thinking skills, but also those other 4 Cs, which I'll talk about in a second. If you have questions, I would very much like to hear them. I want you to ask them. We'll probably have a little bit of time at the end of the webinar, so you can send me some questions either via the chat or the Q&A. The Q&A is probably better because it gets recorded, whereas I have in the past had loads and loads of questions on the chat. I've ended the webinar and then I've obviously lost all of my questions. So if you want, I will certainly be able to answer if you send a question on the Q&A. But we might have a quick time to look at the chat as well. Otherwise, if you have questions after the webinar ends and you think of something that you didn't have time to ask them, please send me an email. We will respond to those. We will then send out the debrief email, which will comprise a link, excuse me, to the video recording, this presentation, and our responses to all of the FAQs. So that's how it will work. I don't think this will be a particularly long webinar, but I do go on sometimes. So I will try and stop myself from going on too long. I think this will last about 45 minutes, but we'll see how we go. Okay, so first of all, crucially, what are the 4 C's? So I have identified these as kind of the point of the new website. I want to develop student skills in critical thinking, in their creative approach to knowledge. I want to help them to communicate their ideas more clearly. And I want to help them, I want to support them in collaborating with others. And not only do I want these skills to be applicable to them, I also want them to understand the role of these 4 skills in the production of knowledge in general, okay? How we understand the world, how other people have thought critically, how other people have used creativity to come up with new ideas, how other people communicate brilliantly, and how other people have collaborated, okay? So it's kind of on 2 levels, the 4 C's for me. Now, the 4 C's have been around, I don't know, probably 20 years or so. Someone thought, this is a brilliant bit of alliteration, and we will come up with these 4 key skills, and they've been referred to by political leaders, by business leaders, by educational leaders as being key to personal and societal success. So for students to succeed in the world, these are the skills that they need. Now, I don't know how much you buy into it. I think when I first heard it, I thought it was a bit of a kind of buzz term, but the more I've thought about it, the more I realized it's a great summary of what they need. Rather than providing students with huge amounts of content, we are going over, obviously, or we've been going over for many years, to a kind of skill-based approach to education. And there's plenty of links online that you can find to look up. Some people are critical of the 4 C's. Some people think, well, there should be other additions to the 4 C's. For example, culture comes up a lot, an understanding of different culture, which I totally agree with. But I think it depends on how you interpret these 4 terms, and I think they can be interpreted in a lot of ways. So I will give you my interpretation of them, and hopefully that will kind of resonate with you, and you'll see, yeah, okay, I get it. If you interpret it like that, I get how important these 4 C's are. Okay. Now, if you run the theory of knowledge course, then you're already doing it, okay? And this is what I've realized for a few years now. Theory of knowledge is the perfect grounding for the 4 C's. Obviously, it's critical thinking. It's a lot about creativity, okay? So more recognizing the role of creativity in the production of new ideas, in all of the different sort of areas of knowledge. You have Einstein talking about the importance of imagination. You have people like sort of Steve Jobs in the art and design world talking about creativity. In every aspect, in every area of knowledge, the role of creativity is massively important. Communication is obviously key to the theory of knowledge course. Students have to write an essay. Previously, they had to do a presentation. Now they have to do an exhibition. So they need the skills of communication, and they learn from other thinkers, how important communication is. I love the little video. I'm a big fan of the neuroscientist Donald Hoffman, who has a lot of great things to say about communication. And one of the first lessons that we look at in my version of sort of theory of knowledge is we draw on the ideas of Donald Hoffman in terms of communication. And there are a lot of fantastic thinkers out there who can help students realize the importance of communicating ideas clearly. Collaboration. I think is so much more important than competition when it comes to the production of knowledge. I think we're seeing that right now at the moment, even though our esteemed Prime Minister says that the coronavirus vaccine from AstraZeneca was all down to greed. In fact, of course, the research was funded by public money. Scientists have worked together fantastically to come up with results in terms of the vaccine, in terms of the treatment of coronavirus. And I think what we are seeing is collaboration in action right now. And this has always been the case in terms of knowledge production. When people collaborate in a productive way, in a positive way, that's when you get the results, I think, in understanding the world, creating new things, and so on. So collaboration, we look at a lot in theory of knowledge alongside all the others, and we work in a collaborative kind of way. Yeah, I'll talk about all of these individually, because I think it's really important to get a clear interpretation, at least what my interpretation is. and what underpins the Critivicate site. So first of all, I mean, you'll see the kind of logo, the name Critivicate. What is Critivicate? Perhaps I should start with that. Well, Critivicate, of course, is an amalgamation of critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration. So the crit bit obviously is critical thinking. What is critical thinking? I mean, we perhaps don't give a clear definition to students, and we assume that they will know what critical thinking is. For me, let's kind of summarize it. The key aspects of critical thinking: first of all, supporting assertions with objective evidence, evidence that can be checked, evidence that can be verified, and insisting that others do the same thing. Okay, I think that's the first aspect of critical thinking. I think the second aspect of critical thinking is being able to view a claim, an idea, a belief via different perspectives, understanding that there are different ways of viewing the same thing, including, and this is if you can do this, then you're a fantastic thinker. Just this is almost enough, including a perspective that isn't your own. Okay, so if you can remove yourself from your own shoes, put yourself in someone else's shoes and see the same problem, see it as an outsider, as Julia Galef has said, I think that's a key part of critical thinking. And then thirdly, drawing on the ideas of John Stuart Mill, who talked a lot about how important it is to be humble, to be modest, having a willingness to accept that you are wrong, or you might be wrong. Okay, not being dogmatic about the claims that you make. So I think that's the third aspect of being a critical thinker. Without that third thing, you never learn. If you assume that you are right all the time, you never go anywhere. Okay, so I think that's a key part of critical thinking as well. Now, for all of these four C's, I also think that they need to be applied to each other. They are very, very sort of interlinked. So you need to be able to apply critical thinking to creativity. You need to be able to apply it to the way in which you communicate, and you need to be definitely you need to apply it to collaboration. If you're working with others, you've got to be critical about, in a positive way, about the ideas, the claims, and so forth that they make. Okay, so that's kind of the common theme of all of the four C's. So those are three, plus the extra one there of interlinking it with the other aspects. Secondly, creativity, the IVI bit of Critivicate. So I think what it's important to take on board when we apply creativity, first of all, just having the understanding, viewing it as central to the production of new knowledge in all subject areas. Now, in the TOK course, we look at 5 areas of knowledge, amongst them the arts, amongst them mathematics, amongst them natural sciences. And I think there's a tendency sometimes amongst students, sometimes even amongst teachers, to see creativity as synonymous only with the arts. The more you look at these different areas of knowledge, the more you understand that creativity is just as important in mathematics as it is in the arts. It's just as important as the natural sciences in the arts. So the prerequisite, I think, is understanding that creativity is constant. It is everywhere, and it's necessary for the production of all ideas. Secondly, understanding that your approach might only be one of a range of alternative ways of producing knowledge. So we have to be prepared to sort of borrow ideas from other people, and accept that they might have come up with a fantastic idea rather than our own ideas. So I suppose adaptable is a word there that I think runs alongside creativity. And again, I mentioned Steve Jobs already. He talks about the idea of new ideas just basically being, built on other ideas. Newton, of course, said the same thing. I think also aligns perhaps a little bit with what we've said about being prepared to understand that you might have got it wrong. Embracing that, okay, going further, appreciating that getting things wrong is a prerequisite of applying creativity. The great thinker Ken Robinson always spoke about this. Students are afraid of getting things wrong, and I think that stymies their creativity. So you have to understand that you screw up quite a lot. You've got to be prepared to do that when you apply creativity to an idea, and you might come up with some completely left field suggestion or claim that proves to be utterly wrong, spectacular failure. But that's necessary in order to get us to the right place. Okay, so I think that's a really important part of creativity. And then again, you know, applying creativity to the other 4 C's. We've got to be creative about our critical approach. We've got to be creative about working with others, suggesting ideas, suggesting approaches, and the way in which we communicate. You know, we've got to be creative about communication. There are so many different ways, of course, of getting across an idea. We're accustomed in education to being imprisoned by exams, and that's how you express your ideas at the end of your years and years of learning in an exam hall. Of course, that's a ridiculous way, when you think about it, of expressing ideas. We need to be a lot more creative these days in communicating ideas. So you know, that very much goes alongside communication. Talking of which, communicate, the CA, the Critivicate bit of Critivicate. So, you know, simple, being able to convey your claims and opinions in a clear and coherent way. Using terminology, and this is what Donald Hoffman said, who I've mentioned, using terminology that is agreed upon by all participants in a debate. So in other words, before you start talking, before you start communicating, you agree on what your terms are, okay? Because you could, I think the vast majority of arguments, you know, debates that soon break down into arguments, are based not necessarily on a difference of opinion. They are based on a difference of interpretation of what a concept actually means. So you have to begin with an agreed upon set of definitions, the parameters for your arguments. You know, if you're involved in a religious debate, what do we mean by God? There are lots of different ways of understanding that. If we're looking at science, you know, what do we mean by evolution? Whose kind of model of evolution? If we're looking at the arts, you know, we've got to have some kind of framework of understanding if we're debating about what makes an art, a piece of art, a great piece of art. So you need to agree on your terms before you begin. I think that's absolutely crucial to communication. And, you know, linking to what I've just said, drawing on a range of different formats and media types to express ideas. I want to be able to, excuse me, encourage students to be really original and creative and exciting when it comes to getting across their ideas, because that's what they will need to do when they get out there into the world. They will not sit exams. They will never do that unless it's to become a sort of teacher. God help them. No, they need to come up with much more interesting ways of pitching their ideas, pitching their claims. I still remember when I was at school, we did a project on the Battle of the Somme, and I was so jealous of one of my friends because he handed in his project in an old shell case to the teacher, who just thought this was the greatest thing ever. A fantastic idea of how to communicate your idea, how to communicate your work. So I want students to think like that. And again, applying communication skills to the other 4 C's. There's no point being a great critical thinker if you can't communicate your ideas. Talked about the way creativity and communication go together, and obviously when you're collaborating, you know, communication is key. You need to be able to talk to your team. You know, this was the difference between Edison and Tesla. Edison created this system whereby his team communicated with each other, whereas Tesla sort of was the lone genius, too much ultimately on his own, and not able to communicate his ideas in a way that Edison did. Not necessarily had better ideas, just had a much better way of communicating ideas and developing the innovations that he had. And then finally, collaboration. In a way, I think this is the most important. You know, why are we doing any of this if it's not to encourage students to be better collaborators? You know, what's the point in living almost? We could get quite deep. They've got to work together. It's another way in which I think the present education system lets them down. They are encouraged to compete in an individual way, and that's not going to ensure success in life. They need to be able to collaborate with others. I think how successful you are in school largely depends on how well you've interacted with others. You know, forget about the exam grades. You know, have you made great friends? Have you established great relationships? Have you dealt with problems that have arisen amongst you and your friends and your peers and your teachers at school? That's what school's about, and that's, you know, that's what lockdown learning can't ever imitate. You know, so collaboration, I think, is really, really important. So what is it? Well, to me, I begin with that understanding that collaboration is more effective than competition. This is what I'm always telling my students. We're sharing ideas, we're learning from each other. We're not keeping our ideas, the way little students sort of hide what they're writing behind their hands. No, we're not doing that. Not in this course. And I don't do it in theory of knowledge either. We are helping each other to understand. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. So I think that's the first fundamental aspect of collaboration. You're not competing, you're helping each other. Being prepared to take on board the ideas of others, even when they're challenging, even when they're maybe difficult to accept. And I know we can get into hot water here, but I think we should be able to consider everything if there's evidence for it, if it's well expressed, and so on. And even when it's uncomfortable for us, we should at least consider it. And I think that's really, really important. I think also this aligns with what we've said in creativity. Appreciating it in order to understand the world, it's essential to view it via different perspectives. So that idea, I mean, we mentioned culture. This is where culture comes in, I think. We have so many different cultural perspectives towards knowledge, and collaboration is our key to understanding those. I think at the moment, there's a great deal of a growing acceptance amongst scientists of indigenous knowledge, particularly when it comes to finding solutions to the climate crisis. Indigenous peoples are much better than we are at looking after the natural world, and we are more and more looking at how they do it and borrowing their ideas. So, that's an example, I think, of a great example of collaboration, but it's also where we bring in an acceptance of different cultures and go beyond our own sort of cultural paradigms. And I've sort of done all this now, but yeah, applying collaboration to the other 4 C's, thinking critically, but I don't think thinking cynically. I think there's a difference there. Okay, so we're being critical, we're demanding evidence, we're demanding explanations. But we're not just shooting things down. We're not just denying things. We're not just disagreeing for the sake of it. That's where collaboration comes in. Communicating, I've said, creativity is very much part of collaboration as well. Being willing to accept other people's approaches to collaboration. So there we are. Those are my understandings of the 4 C's, probably not radically different from other people, but I think very much worth setting down. And obviously this will form some aspects of the earliest lessons and resources that we offer to students in Critivicate. Okay, so let's move on to sort of think about how we already use these, how we already use the 4 C's. So if you're a member of theoryofknowledge.net, or you've seen the theoryofknowledge.net site, then you'll know we run a course. We have a course of about 72 different, or not about, exactly 72 full-length lessons that are available in teacher-led and self-guided versions. We begin by thinking about what the aims of theory of knowledge are, this epistemological course. What are we trying to do here? And I've realized that we're trying to do the 4 C's, and that's what I align my theory of knowledge course to the 4 C's, these 4 skills. I think the exhibition and the essay test their ability to think critically, to communicate their ideas, be creative about their theories and their opinions and their claims, and also understand the role of creativity when it comes to the production of knowledge. We used to have a presentation in Theory of Knowledge. If you're not familiar with the Theory of Knowledge course, then you won't know that it has just changed. The syllabus has been updated, and we've replaced the presentation with an exhibition. I think a slight shame that the exhibition is done individually, so we're no longer testing collaboration. We're no longer forcing, if you like, students to work together, but I think that was a great experience for them. I think that's a little bit of a shame, but there we have it. So there's less testing of collaboration. However, if you're like me, then you will teach the course in a very collaborative way. You don't get your students competing with each other. You get your students sharing ideas. There's plenty of discussion. You are encouraging them to listen to the ideas of each other. You're encouraging them to borrow ideas from other individuals, from other tables, from other partners when they sort of team up. So as much as possible, we are delivering the Theory of Knowledge course collaboratively. That's what we do at theoryofknowledge.net. We try to support all of those things. We provide resources for schools that deliver the TOK course. We produce a newsletter that links very, very closely to all of the four C's. And as well as our TOK lessons, we have a huge range of other resources. For example, Knowledge Heroes, which is a new sort of a new resource looking at the ideas of 100 key thinkers and how they've changed the world. We have mini lessons for them, 10-minute TOK lessons. We have something called the 12 key concepts, which are 12 really useful words that we're going to use again, or similar words in Critivicate. And we go into detail about how they link to the course, how they link to critical thinking and so forth. So there's loads and loads of resources, in short, on the theoryofknowledge.net site that align very closely to the 4 C's and help students develop them, I hope. Here's the thing, here's the pitch. We've always wanted to make this available, what we do, to a wider audience. And actually, in the past, we have had some schools that haven't been IB schools or diploma program schools sign up to what we do. We've had 1 or 2 universities draw on our resources, which is fantastic. And I've really loved that when people have come along and said, we don't do TOK, but we like your resources and we'd like to use them. Well, yes, of course, please do. And that's what I've always wanted to do, because ultimately the IB diploma is only 3,000 schools worldwide, or a little bit more than that. And I would like it to be available to everyone in the world. I'd like everyone to be doing something like theory of knowledge, epistemology, going beyond just critical thinking. There are lots of critical thinking courses out there, but I don't think there are problems with them. First of all, they're not set in a recognizable context for students. They're a little bit contrived, a little bit abstract. Here are some critical thinking skills that you can apply, and they're all a bit hypothetical. So first of all, I want to, like TOK, set this learning, set this development within a clear context. And I'll explain that in a second. For TOK, it's the areas of knowledge, it's real life situations. For Critivicate, it's something similar, which I'll say in a minute. And also, I want to go beyond just this very narrow kind of approach to critical thinking, which is, these are some hacks for how to think. These are ways in which you can see that a website is providing you with misinformation. I want to go much deeper than that, and I want to do what TOK does, which is looking at the nature of knowledge, looking at what it means to know something, how that might differ from having an opinion about something, how that might differ from having a belief about something. So really go a lot deeper and link it to lots of other big questions. Again, something I'll talk about in a second. So doing a lot more than just critical thinking. It's epistemology, and that's what I want to make available to everyone. So this is kind of how we want to do it. So we have a little diagram there, which I suppose is some attempt at, I mean, diagrams are always a little bit limited, but yeah, these are 4 different sort of elements that we'll be doing in Critivicate. You've got real world issues. So we're very much going to set what we do in the real world and what's going on now. I'm not a fan of textbooks. I think textbooks, they can be brilliant. They can be a good security blanket. They can provide students with a useful kind of outline of how to write essays and things like that. But in terms of what they do to invite students to explore the world, I think they're limited. So we're going to be doing it slightly differently. We're going to be setting what we learn in what's going on right now. We're also going to link, or we're going to link those real world issues to the subject areas, and I'll show you our subject areas in a second. They are designed to align to the way in which most schools deliver their academic programs at whatever level, GCSE, IGCSE, A-level, AP. So they should align with what you do already. And this is our sort of trademark thing, I suppose. We then go from real world issues to subject areas, and then from subject areas to the aspects of knowledge. So we divide our raw material, our news story, our personal experience that a student might have into a particular aspect of knowledge. And that the aspects of knowledge are very similar to our big questions in theory of knowledge. So theoryofknowledge.net divides the top course into 6 big questions. And these are going to be very, very similar to the aspects of knowledge. But rather than asking a question, it's going to be looking at a type of knowledge, a type of process. And I'm not even sure I've got it written down here, but I think I do. I hope I have. I'll go over it in a minute, but I'll tell you more about the aspects of knowledge in a second. The first bullet point there is really important, though. I mean, I know what we're doing here is a kind of non-mandatory learning experience. Okay, schools do not have to do what we're doing. I know a lot of schools do want to do what we're doing, which is why we think this is going to work. But I know that schools already are filled with things that they're doing in terms of academic learning, in terms of co-curricular things, in terms of just revising and getting stressed by all of the demands of the courses. So I know you're already busy. I know teachers are already busy. I know students are already busy. So we want to make this as flexible as we possibly can. Okay, so you can draw on Critivicate in a really kind of non-invasive way and make it not a particularly time-consuming experience. Or you can go the reverse, and you can devote hours a week to learning Critivicate. It will take that. There's enough material for you to go into as much depth as you possibly can. Or you can just you can just look at the newsletter. But again, I'll discuss that in a second. Okay, so let me try and go into a little more details. I'm not sure that I have actually got the aspects of knowledge, which I should have done in this presentation. Okay, so yeah, at the heart, so the core component of Critivicate, similar to theoryofknowledge.net, but actually more important than in theoryofknowledge.net, we have a monthly newsletter. So we're going to be writing a newsletter. We're going to be sending it out, and it's going to focus on 20 real-world issues, which we access via different media sources from all around the world. And we will just provide you, if you already know what the theoryofknowledge.net newsletter is, you'll know exactly what this will look like. It will just give a little outline of what the story is about. It will align it to the aspect of knowledge. Perhaps this is where I should talk about that. So the aspects of knowledge, the first one, there are 6 of them. First of all, we're looking at foundations. Okay, so the nature of knowledge. What is knowledge? Secondly, we look at values. So how do we use our knowledge in order to make moral decisions? Thirdly, we look at spin, which means how is the way in which knowledge is communicated. How does the format in which knowledge and ideas is communicated change our understanding of it? Fourthly, we're going to look at perspective. So how do our perspectives change the way we understand things? Fifth is creativity, which means how is new knowledge created? How does knowledge develop over time? And sixth, experts. What makes an expert knower? What makes a discerning knower about the world? Okay, so those are our 6 aspects of knowledge. I will show you that in a minute because we're going to go to the website. So I will go over that in a second. So the newsletter will say, okay, so this story links to this subject area, and this is the aspect of knowledge that it's helping us to explore. Okay. Now, as well as the newsletter, that's enough if you want it. You can just have the newsletter. You can just, ask teachers to discuss the newsletter stories. We'll have stories linking to history, so you can ask your history teacher to discuss that as a 5-minute starter. We have stories linking to biology, to environmental science, to mathematics, to visual arts, to music. All of the subjects will be linked to these real life situations. So it is a way for teachers to link their subject to what's going on in the world and have a valuable framework through which they can discuss it. So, is this looking at the way knowledge develops? Is this looking at the relationship between our subject and morality? Is this about the nature of our subject, the nature of knowledge in our subject? Is this about how we become expert historians or expert biologists or expert business leaders? So that's what we use the aspects of knowledge for, and how we link them to the newsletter. And that's where you can stop if that's enough for you. Or you can run a series of lessons. We're going to be offering full-length lessons, which, as with theoryofknowledge.net, you can use as teacher-led lessons. So you can appoint a teacher to drive this program, or you can farm them out and have subject teachers teaching these lessons, or you can have it as self-guided. Okay, so we offer the lessons in self-guided versions if you want students to work on this on their own. And these lessons will be good for students from 14 up to 18. So, you can decide on the length of the course if you're going to run it like that. We're also going to offer 10-minute lessons, so just little mini lessons that look at a single idea, focusing on a media source. Again, this is something we do in theoryofknowledge.net, and we've got a whole bunch of other resources familiar to those of you who use the pre-existing site. We've got Knowledge Heroes, which I've already mentioned. We've got one called Investigating Issues, which is out in May as well, which looks at it's gone up now. It's got about 80 different issues, from kind of armchair experiments to the climate crisis, to gender politics, to Black Lives Matter, to all of these things going on in the world. And for each one, we present a little introduction, how it links to the 4 C's and critical thinking and epistemology. And there's a range of different media sources that you can use to explore them. We have a TED companion. So we in Theory of Knowledge, we draw on the TED Talks a lot. Accessing them sometimes can be a problem. What do you do with these? Well, we present questions for around 100 of the different TED Talks, and the kind of questions you can ask your students, where they appear in the video. We've got a filmography, so a suggestion of films, documentaries, TV series that you can watch and develop these ideas. There are lots of other things as well, which I won't go into now, but the takeaway here is that you can do whatever you want with Critivicate. It can be something that happens in existing classes and takes sort of 5 minutes a week, or it can be something that you spend hours on every week and really kind of really go to town on. So it's up to you. It's up to your school what you do with Critivicate. All right, now you might be thinking, okay, that's great. What do we do with that? Where's it going? Where's it leading to? And this is why I've said that that we need to distinguish between introducing and developing something and showcasing it. Okay, so how do we showcase it? How do we, in short, prove that we are doing this? We say we are a great school in which critical thinking is central, and we teach our students how to be autonomous thinkers, and they learn how to distinguish between dodgy sites out there and valid sites. They learn the difference between fake news and real news. Okay, and I'm sure you do. I'm sure your school does. I'm sure that happens, but what's your evidence for that? And where you might need to present evidence is when students apply to university, or thinking even sort of further ahead, apply for jobs. How can you prove that your learning has done that? Okay, so we wanted Critivicate to lead to a product, a tangible, authentic product that they can show, that showcases their skills, that shows that they're critical thinkers, that shows that they're great at communicating, that shows that they've worked with others and understand how that's important in the production of knowledge, that shows that they understand the role of creativity in producing new ideas. So we've come up with what we call the 4C portfolio. Okay, and the idea is that this is something that students create during the duration of the course. Again, it's going to be very, very flexible. It can be really whatever you want it to be, but my own sort of conception of this is that it will be a range of different assignments created in a different way that align with the 6 aspects of knowledge. Okay, so you will have, for example, a blog that you've written on the nature of knowledge for foundations, the first aspect of knowledge. You will have a group presentation that maybe you've recorded, you've made a video about, on the way in which we use knowledge to make moral decisions for the second aspect of knowledge. You will have a podcast maybe that you've made on the way in which ideas change if they're communicated in a different format. You will have an essay, maybe you'll have an essay, something traditional. You'll have an essay on how our perspectives shift our understanding of something, and so on. Okay, so I mean, you can gather as many of these as these assignments as you want and put them into your 4C portfolio. We have set up a rubric for this, for you to self-assess. We want students to self-assess. I find it, I've got this really radical idea that I'm playing with in my head, that students should be assessing teachers rather than teachers assessing students. I'm not sure how that would work, but I'm going in that direction and see if I can come up with something. But for now, Critivicate will be self-assessed. Students will create it and mark it themselves. Because this, you know, where I see this as being really important is when they go to university and or their university application, and they say, here it is, here's my portfolio, this is how I've marked it, this is why I think I'm really good at critical thinking, this is why I think my forms of communication are exceptional. I feel I could collaborate more in this area, in this area, in this area, and I think that self-assessing will just show so much more self-awareness than being marked by us, the teachers. Choice is central to the assignment. So students decide how they create these assignments. They choose the medium that they use. They choose the format. If they want, they can write 6 essays. I doubt that they'll do that. Obviously, diversity and variety is I think crucial to the success of a portfolio. So I hope they'll choose to do different things at different times. In the rubric, I suggest some kind of frameworks in terms of word count and time periods for presentations. But again, that's kind of up to them how much they want to put into it. I suggest that they have to do at least one collaborative piece of work. And I suggest that they do at least 4 assignments, I think, overall. So if you're doing, you know, the 6 aspects of knowledge, you're choosing to do something on 4 of those. But it's kind of up to them. If they want to do fewer than that or more than that, then that's kind of up to them. And I think this is going to work for students. I mean, how you run the Critivicate course is up to you. It could be a mandatory thing, but I'm thinking more that it will be optional for students. It will be something that they can really use to strengthen their university applications, as well as being, I hope, an amazing educational experience in their own right. They're going to meet amazing people. They're going to meet amazing ideas. They're going to learn how to analyze the news better than they ever have done, I hope. But I think it will, if you're going to go into a lot of detail, if you're going to run the lessons as well as use the newsletter, then I think it might work best as a kind of as an optional activity, maybe run at lunchtimes, maybe run for an hour after school, you know, depending on the timetable in your school. So the portfolio is I hope going to be an empowering experience for them. They're going to learn things. They're going to play with ideas. They're going to you know, develop their own understanding of the world, but it will, I think, really massively improve their university application profile. It's going to provide tangible proof of their awareness of the 4 Cs and their abilities of the 4 Cs. And I hope that that's going to be a worthy finale to what I hope is a fun, interesting, engaging, and very, very useful course. But it's sort of up to them, and I suppose up to you to make it whatever you want it to be. Right, so that's, I hope that runs through how we're going to introduce and develop these skills and how we're going to showcase them. All right, before I go over that, let's have a quick look at the site. It's not online yet. But obviously I'm working on it. I am creating content for it. So here it is. I mean, it will look quite familiar to you if you use the theoryofknowledge.net site. It's a similar kind of design. So if we go, for example, to the subject areas, these are the subject areas that I've picked out. So we have the arts, we have humanities, we have languages, mathematics, natural sciences, social sciences. So if we go here, for example, the natural sciences, you'll see, you know, what we encompass there. Actually, maybe we'll go to one that needs more definition. So, you know, we're looking at within each subject area. Obviously, we're looking at a wide range of fields that should align with what you're doing in your school. So yeah, sports science, for example, we count as a natural science. All of those should be familiar. Maybe I will And mathematics, for example, we're not just thinking about mathematics, we're also thinking, we're thinking, I suppose mathematics is the formal sciences rather than mathematics. So that we're thinking about statistics, we're thinking about computer science, we're thinking about information technology. So all of those things. What else is perhaps more in need of explanation? Languages, again, we're not just thinking about different languages, we're thinking about linguistics. We're thinking about the nature of language, not just how you communicate in other tongues. How we use, actually that should be word usage, not world usage. Technology and language. Yeah, so those are our subject areas, and then you can see the aspects of knowledge here. Okay, foundations, the nature of knowledge. So you apply that to the subject area. What is the nature of mathematics? What makes mathematics? Why do we study mathematics? So I guess we can just click on there. Yeah, so you can see, I mean, it should be familiar to you if you use theory of knowledge. We've got some quotes there. We've got some real life issues, stories, media sources. This is how we align it to the 4C portfolio. And here are links to the other subject areas, so you can explore that aspect of knowledge in more detail. So that's foundations. I won't go to a different page for each one, but values. How do we use mathematics in order to make moral decisions? How does mathematics relate to ethics? What are the kind of ethical restrictions on the natural sciences or on social sciences? How do the arts help us to understand morality? Then we have spin. Obviously, that's related very closely to language. How do we use language to change our understanding of something? Perspectives, something that always works fantastically well in humanities, particularly history. Creativity, how do we come up with new ideas, not just in the arts, but in the natural sciences? They all rely on creativity, as I've said. And then finally, what do we need to do to become an expert geographer or an expert political thinker or an expert artist or art critic? Okay, so those are our aspects of knowledge that ask kind of lots of different questions. So rather than the big questions, which is theoryofknowledge.net, we're thinking perhaps a little bit more broadly, not necessarily focused on a single question, but on lots of different questions related to those different aspects. Okay, so that's the site, that's the structure. There's a little bit here on the portfolio. I've got to add a lot of content. I've got a lot of work to do if I'm going to launch this on the 1st of May, but we're nearly there. We're getting there. Yeah, you'll see lots of familiar pages, because it is based quite closely on theory of knowledge, because we know that works, but there are also some major fundamental differences, particularly the end product, the portfolio, which I hope is a lot more engaging and built on choice and built on self-assessment, and I hope it's going to be something that students really enjoy doing. Okay, so pilot schools. I've advertised this on LinkedIn. I've sent out emails about this. We're looking for 12 schools from around the world to pilot Critivicate. Now, we've had quite a lot of gratifyingly large number of schools contact us about this, and we've definitely got some that we want to work with, and I have emailed them. Now, what you need to be is a school. You cannot be an IB diploma school and just do that. It's not going to work for you. You've already got theoryofknowledge.net. You're already doing that. The resources on theoryofknowledge.net will always be slightly more extensive than Critivicate, because, of course, IB diploma schools have to do it. You have to do TOK. So that's that's why we provide more resources for that. We don't want to overwhelm people on Critivicate, because you don't have to do it. So you can be an IB diploma school and offer other programs. I know a load of schools around the world, in the States, here in the UK, run other programs alongside the IB diploma. It would work for you. If you've been wondering, how do we give our non-IB diploma students the same experience as TOK? Because I hope, if you agree with me, TOK is brilliant. How do we give that to our other students? I hope Critivicate is your answer. It will give them, I think, a great experience. It will give them a great going way beyond critical thinking, I hope, and give them a great route to truly understanding knowledge and how they process ideas and so forth. So yeah, you have to be offering another course alongside the IB diploma. And of course, if you are not an IB diploma school, and some of you I know are not, or some of you I know are moving to schools that are not, then this is going to, I hope this is going to be perfect for you. Now, I hope you'll see that the flexibility of Critivicate means that, you know, whilst it's almost certain that you will need permission to run this kind of program, it could exist just as a kind of school, society, or club that you run yourself after school or in a lunchtime for your sixth form students. So it could be something that you just do on your own. It doesn't have to be a school-wide thing. On the other hand, of course, the more people doing it, the more teachers you have referring to the aspects of knowledge and to to the 4Cs, then obviously the better. But it could just be something that you do on your own. It's you know, it's designed for flexibility. So that's what we're looking for. I mean, and we've had some really fantastic schools from all over the world. I mean, I think I've got 12 different countries actually ready to help us. What we will do for you is we'll obviously give you free access to the site and its resources. You can have that for as long as you're running the program. What we would like from you is feedback, okay? And this doesn't have to be that often, just an occasional email saying, this worked fantastically well with my our students. We didn't have enough time for this. This goes way too deep. Or can we have more things like this? Or, you know, this is brilliant, or this is awful, whatever it is. We would like occasional feedback. You'll be wondering, what does that mean? What is occasional feedback? I don't know, a couple of emails every term. It's sort of up to you. I just want to feel that you're using it, and we can draw on your comments, and we can mention you as a school. You know, we've got these as our pilot schools. And that's it really. How you like the site, how the students like the site. Obviously, we'd like to hear about the viability of producing the end products, the 4C portfolio, maybe ways in which that has helped students with university applications. You know, we'd love to feel that universities are impressed by that kind of thing. I think they will be. They love TOK, so I hope the same thing applies to Critivicate in our portfolio. That's it. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for 12 people. Now, I have a list of people. I'm not sure that all of them are offering non-IB diploma courses, so I will be in touch with them. Some of them weren't quite sure that their school would want to do this, but if you're interested, then contact me. Don't do it here in this webinar. Don't send me a message. Email me. I'm easily contactable. michael@theoryofknowledge.net. So I will then get back to you and tell you if we've still got spaces. There will be discounts, okay? So if you want to become a pilot school and we don't quite have room for you, then I will be launching some exciting discounts for people who sign up, I think between now and October. So the first 6 months of Critivicate. So if you're in early, then you're going to be one of our most esteemed customers, and we'll look after you, and we'll give you a good deal of some sort, which I'm yet to work out. Okay, so becoming a member, how do you do it? You've liked what you've seen, I hope. You know, I hope you also like the potential, right? Because the idea here is that I'm not offering something prescriptive. I'm offering something that you can kind of run with, and the students even more can run with. The site will launch on May the 1st. From that moment, then you can sign up as a member. It will work in the same way as theoryofknowledge.net. I hope slightly more user-friendly. We've had 1 or 2 problems with theoryofknowledge.net. I hope you haven't been affected in that way. We try and make up for it by being really quick with email responses and support. So, you know, that will continue to be part of the deal. You know, we're here to help. There'll be several membership levels, so you can just have the newsletter if you want that. You can have the newsletter and some of the resources if you want that, or you can have access to the whole site if you want that. It will, of course, be more economical, sort of breaking it down if you have access to the whole thing, which is what most people do with Theory of Knowledge, a vast majority of people, but we will have different levels to reflect that some people might just want the newsletter. And yes, as it says there, discounts for schools who get in early. I'll be working that out over the next few weeks, but you know, if you want to write to me and ask me that, I'll try and clarify that as soon as I can. I will also run another webinar probably mid-May. I'll probably set that up quite soon. so that when the site has launched, I can sort of take you on a walkthrough. But it should be very user-friendly. It should be quite intuitive to use. I can't believe it's now 5 to 12. I thought I wouldn't be speaking for this long, but there we have it. Okay. All right. If you're not sure who I am, who is this guy? So you can find out a little bit more about us. I think the best place maybe is YouTube. So I've got some links that you can follow when you get this presentation. I'm putting more and more stuff on YouTube about theoryofknowledge.net. I'll do the same for Critivicate. I think videos are really important for student learning. So you can see what we do there. Obviously, you can have a look online, theoryofknowledge.net, at the present site and how we do things. There'll be loads of free content. If you've watched this and you've thought, well, yeah, I quite like that, but I don't want to give this guy any money, that's fine. You know, you can just use the free content, of which there'll be a lot. I'll also have a free newsletter that you can sign up for, which will have a kind of abridged version of the full version for members. So I hope, again, that I hope gives flexibility, and you can use this in any way that you want. Okay, I think the last page was not relevant. You got the little video there. Yeah, just a little note about my images. Okay, that's it. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to have a quick look at the chat. If you want to ask any questions, I've got one or two things on the Q&A. So hopefully I can just quickly go over these. Right. My friend in Luxembourg, could I use this approach to grade 9/10 students as a pre-TOK course? Not really. You could, but if you're a theoryofknowledge.net member, I'm about to launch, in fact, it's launching. You've already got access to several lessons, the Thinking for Yourself course. Now, I will have that available on the Critivicate site, but just if you're a theoryofknowledge.net member, then you just use the resources on the Theory of Knowledge site. So Thinking for Yourself is the thing that's going to launch, and is going to work there for you. You really don't need Critivicate. If you're running the IB diploma and you haven't got any alternative programs in the sixth form, then I would just stick with theoryofknowledge.net. Sonia, who I know is very close by, does your thinking about creativity encompass any of Rob Pope's ideas? No, I am not familiar with Rob Pope's ideas. Maybe I will look him up, and I will include ideas from him if I think they work. How well would Critivicate sit alongside ATL for MYP? Well, the majority of Critivicate will be for sixth formers, so A-level age, IB diploma age, well, the equivalent of. But yeah, as I've said, there will be this course, Thinking for Yourself, in a Critivicate version. I will try and I mean, obviously, critical thinking is an essential part of the ATL for MYP, and I've taught MYP. As I create Thinking for Yourself, I will almost certainly be drawing on the ATLs for the MYP, but I don't want to make it specifically for MYP. In fact, I'd rather make it non-MYP because this is really for non-IB schools. Having said that, I love the MYP. I like the approaches to learning in MYP. So I will almost certainly be borrowing things from them. Yeah, if we start this course during grade 9 to 10, will students feel that TOK is a kind of repetition? No, I of the 4C course. No, I don't think so. It won't be repeated. The idea of the pre-TOK course, and something that will feature on Critivicate, sorry, this is getting complicated, is that these are introducing some concepts, introducing them really, and then when they start TOK, they will feel, those are familiar concepts. Now we're really doing some deep and detailed things with them. Okay, so it's kind of breaking the ice, if you like. They will feel comfortable with these terms, but they won't feel bored by them. I guess that would be the best way of putting it. Someone writing to me from a school in the UK. I already have year 11 1 hour per week for my critical thinking course. Next year, I will be expanding this to year 10 students as well. These students are GCSE and IGCSE. I use theoryofknowledge.net with sixth form IB. However, from September, we have more A-level students than IB in the sixth form. Yes. Yes. You will, Critivicate will work really well for you. I think I've actually emailed you about this. Critivicate will work really well for you. I hope that you are the kind of school that this is designed for. Okay, so if you're looking to give TOK to your obviously IB diploma students, but you want something for your A-level students, then Critivicate will work. I mean, theoryofknowledge.net would work. You could teach them TOK, and I know some schools that do that, but I feel like there's a lot of extraneous stuff. There's a lot of, there's a lot of preparation for the essay. There's preparation for the exhibition. There's kind of IB terminology that you wouldn't necessarily want. So Critivicate will be a kind of pared down version of theoryofknowledge.net. So you could use one for one and one for and the other for the other. Does that make sense? But Critivicate will definitely work for your A-level students and your GCSE students. Have I got any? I've got anything on the chat. Let me just check my chat. Yeah, nothing in the chat. I think we'll wrap it up. It is exactly 12 o'clock. This has taken exactly 1 hour. Thank you for those questions. If you want to ask anything else, then I will be more than happy to field your questions. I think the takeaway that I want for you to have is this is going to be a really wide range of resources, and it's going to be, I hope, a fantastic newsletter that will benefit every single school, that could be used in every single school. So the newsletter is at the core of it, and how much more you want to push it, and how much more you want to explore the ideas, the aspects of knowledge, is entirely up to you. You don't have to do anything else apart from the newsletter, but you can go way further. I hope even people just using the newsletter will want to produce the 4C portfolio, which you can do just from the newsletter. But it's totally up to you. It's totally up to you. Actually, there's one last question. Wanted to know about the 12 pilot schools. Write to me, and I will tell you about the 12 pilot schools. We're doing quite well for the pilot schools, but I know that some of them will not end up being a pilot school, so they won't want to be, or they'll find out that we're not going to be able to do it with just IB diploma. Okay, so yeah, I hope this was a good introduction. There'll be more webinars on Critivicate. I will be publicizing those quite soon. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for all of your questions. And I hope that as many of you will be on board with this as possible. And I hope that this is going to benefit your students. So many thanks, and see you next time.